Hi guys, welcome to the Morning Talks podcast. Now I know I have been MIA, but you know what? Your girl was going through it, okay? First of all, we are going to be doing a very comfy podcast today. I'm literally sitting in the corner of my room. I have my little Pluto pillow, this little Pluto Disney pillow behind me just for some back support. I have a blanket and I have my favorite bevy. So get your favorite beverage, whatever it may be. I'm doing the Topo Chico. This is the twist of lime. And if you have not tried this, you are missing out because, girl, it is delicious. Let me drink some. I have always wanted to do that. If my fiance watches this, he's going to be like, what are you doing? He hates when I do ASMR. And I'm like, what's wrong with it? Like specific ASMR he hates. And I'm just like, what's wrong with my ASMR? Leave my ASMR alone. But anyways, like I was saying, I have just been going through it. So I was traveling for work. So I left 1 week. I left one weekend for work. I went to Texas. And then I came back home. I had that weekend home, and then the following weekend I went to New York. I got sick as heck in New York. I was already sick going to New York. Like I had a cough and a little bit of congestion, and so I was already sick, but it was for a work trip, so I obviously had to pull it together. And so I went to New York, and then I got really sick my last night there. I don't know what I ate, but whatever I ate like wrecked my stomach because I was in a literal pain. I could not sleep that night. Luckily, my flight was not super early the next day, so I got to sleep in a little bit, but I was so uncomfortable. I literally could not lay on my side. I had to sleep like sitting incline. Like I could not lay down flat on my back. I couldn't lay down on my sides. Just super uncomfortable. My stomach was in like literal pain. It felt like just a really aggressive cramp. So fast forward the next day, I flew back home and I got a fever on the plane, and it was just the roughest thing ever. Thank God I had a connecting flight. So my first flight, was I sitting in the aisle? I think I was sitting in the middle. So my first flight was like an hour, and I was like sitting in the middle. And then my second flight, which I had no freaking idea because, again, this was for work. I didn't book these flights. And to be honest, I didn't pay much attention to like the duration of the flights. I just kind of knew when I was like boarding and when I was arriving, right? So yeah, my second flight, my longest flight, which was like 3.5 hours at least, I was so sick, and thankfully I got an aisle seat because I was like in and out of the bathroom. I started getting a fever and it was just rough. So anyways, I got home and it was like late when I got home. It was like, well, not late, but it was 9 p.m. So whatever, I get home, I just went to sleep. And for the next like 3 to 4 days, I literally could not eat anything. I could barely keep fluids down. I tried to drink this like beet juice because, again, I'm like not eating anything. I'm not drinking anything, not getting any nutrients. I'm hungry. Sorry, I was just making sure this is still recording. I'm hungry and I literally cannot eat anything. So I drank this beet juice thinking like, okay, well, it's fluid, should be able to keep this down. And I threw it up. Like, I was like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, you win. I'm just going to starve. And so it took me like 3 or 4 days to finally be able to eat and like feel better. And so then I get back into like my routine on Monday, because I got home, I think it was like a Wednesday. I literally got back home on Valentine's Day. And, oh my God, it was Valentine's Day. Why did I think it was? March has flown by. What the heck? Okay, whatever. So yeah. No, wait, I got back home from Texas. Okay, never mind. I'm confusing the two. Just ignore me. Whatever. So it was early March. I think it was like the first week of March. Anyways, I came back home on Monday. After it was finally done being sick, I went back to the gym, just kind of try to get back into my routine. And then later that week I get my period and it just wrecked me. I was just out. And so then I'm like, okay, cool. Like, there goes my routine. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to stress the podcast. I'm not going to stress it because it's just an additional thing that I don't need to worry about right now. So mainly what I've been trying to focus on is getting back on my routine, because not being able to go to the gym has affected my mental health. And that is what I want to get into with you guys today. We are going to talk about mental health, healing, trauma, all of that fun stuff that no one likes to talk about. But I want to talk to you guys about it because to me, I think it's very, very important. And I just kind of want to shed some light on it. Like, I was going to say share and shed. Oh my God. Shed some light on it and just kind of talk to you guys, give you guys my advice, my personal experience, and hope that it in some way, shape or form helps you, motivates you, inspires you. Take whatever you can from this podcast if it applies to you. But yeah, I just want to talk about mental health. Okay, so I'm not going to fully get into some of the things I'm not ready to talk about yet, but there are some things that I am ready to talk about and do want to talk to you guys about, because again, I hope that this helps you in some way, shape, or form. So if you follow me on any of my other social media accounts, you know that I'm very much about self-love and making sure that you're taking care of yourself, because speaking from experience, I have always been somebody that takes care of other people before myself. I will prioritize other people, whatever it may be, over my own mental, emotional, physical health. Like if you ask me for $10 and I have $20 in my bank account, I'm going to give you those $10 with like no hesitation at all. Like that's just the type of person I am. And I think that's also why like I don't like to let people in so easily into my life. Like I don't get very close to people so easily, because when I care and I love and care very, very hard. And I feel like it's funny because a lot of people like initially, like my close friends now, they'll tell you that I'm very different than when they first met me, just because I'm very like observant. I'm kind of closed off. I'm just kind of like in my own little bubble, in my own little shell. But I observe and I pay attention to things, okay? And I pick and choose carefully, like who I let close into my life. So yeah, if you follow me, you know that I'm all about like self-love, self-care. Right? I wasn't always like that. Like I said, I used to prioritize other people over myself. And honestly, it's not healthy, because you can only do so much. Like you cannot help other people if you cannot help yourself. You can't take care of other people if you can't take care of yourself. But there was a period in time where like growing up, I had to look out for like me and my sister. I am 5 years older than my younger sister, and it's just us two, and we didn't grow up in the best environment. I will save that conversation for another time, not really trying to talk about it, because I'm going through my healing journey, and I am going through and kind of trying to understand why I am the way I am about certain things, or why I get triggered by certain things, or why I react a certain way about certain things. And without knowing, like me subconsciously doing it, but not knowing like why I'm doing it. So now I'm trying to like dig into like, where does that stem from? Like, why do I not like people yelling at me or raising their voice at me? I grew up in a household where my parents would argue and fight and yell at each other all hours of the day. Like it did not matter what time it was. If like me and my sister were sleeping and they got into an argument, they didn't know how to communicate, you know? So I grew up not really having an example of adults communicating when they had a disagreement, which is something I had to learn when I got older. And, you know, through trials in my relationships, I've definitely done the whole screaming and arguing and yelling. And I just hate it. Like, I just absolutely hate the way that it makes me feel. And so now I'm just like, if we're arguing, I'm going to talk to you. If I'm really upset and to the fact where, like, to the point where if I talk to you, I know I'm going to not be the best at communicating, I would just rather separate myself, distance myself. Hey, you know what? We will come back. We will talk about this later. Give me my space. Let me cool down and let me relax so I can come back and talk to you like an adult and we can have a good conversation or a good disagreement that's going to get us somewhere versus us just yelling at each other and we're not even listening to each other. We're just yelling just to get our point across, but not truly listening and understanding what the other person is saying. Because yes, you can listen, but there's a difference of just listening and listening to understand. Because we all grew up differently. We all have our own perspectives. We all have our own opinions and feelings and thoughts, and they are all valid, right? So now when I have a disagreement with whoever it may be, like I try to put myself in their shoes and see from their perspective, because yeah, I'm not always right, you know? And I didn't always think like that. Like I used to be very, very stubborn. And again, I grew up and really not having anybody to talk to. Like I'm the oldest sibling and I'm also the oldest grandchild. So I didn't really have somebody to go to and talk to or to even have like a role model in a sense. And really not to like shit on my family, because I look back now and I think like, okay, everything that I've been through in my life has been for a reason. And if I didn't go through these things in my life, I probably wouldn't be the person that I am today. So I wouldn't say I'm like thankful or I'm like, thank you for putting me through a lot of shit, you know, where I'm not going to say I'm thankful, but like I have accepted and I have moved past it and I, you know, forgive. Don't forget necessarily, because I feel like these things I went through as a child has affected me a lot in my adulthood. And now that I'm kind of trying to heal these things, like it's really taking a toll on me. But I'm also like, okay, at the end of the day, like you guys are family, you guys are my parents, and I know that you did the best that you could at the time, and no, I don't think that the things that you did were necessarily the right things to do, but whatever your reasonings may be, like I'm not going to sit here and talk shit to you or put you down, you know, because now I understand like, okay, my mom was going through certain things where yeah, like you have 2 daughters and they should be your priority. But now I understand like she was going through things emotionally and mentally that I didn't understand at that age that I understand now. So I don't hate my parents for anything that they put me through. It was definitely not a good environment and not an environment that I want to create for like my family. And I think that's why now that I'm getting older, I'm engaged, I'm planning my wedding. And, you know, soon after we get married, we want to have kids. Well, not necessarily soon, but like after marriage, we're going to have kids, you know, like we're getting to that age where these things are happening. And I'm not going to say like there's a certain age to get married, to have kids, like to each their own. We all have our own journeys. There's no right, there's no wrong. But for me personally and my fiance, we've always kind of been like, okay, well, like we want to wait until marriage, you know, we want to be able to be financially stable enough, which again, I just feel like you're never truly ready to have kids because you just never know. But we just want to be in a good position to be able to provide and me personally give my kids things that I didn't have growing up. I'm not going to say that we had like literally nothing, but we did struggle. Where am I going with this? I feel like I'm just rambling, like it all has a purpose, but I felt like I was going somewhere with this and it just went right over my head. This conversation makes me really uncomfortable. Okay, I'm not very good at expressing my thoughts, my feelings. It makes me very emotional. Again, didn't really grow up with the ability to talk to somebody or go to somebody. So I just had to learn how to suppress it. Okay, and deal with it and like just move on, right? And now I am trying to heal because you know, my fiance has pointed things out that I don't necessarily see. And it's not to like talk shit to me or make me feel bad. But, you know, there's been times where he's like, I'm not your dad, like you can't be this way or treat me this way because of things like your dad has done for you. And I'm like, I'm not, like I'm not doing these things because I'm like punishing you for things that like my dad has done to me. But I feel in a sense it was more just me being like protecting myself, I guess. And so again, it's like they're two different people. I need to separate those two. And I feel like that was a hard thing for me to do initially, to separate those things. Or if I'm being honest, like there was a period of time where like I was just like drinking so much and I would like black out, and I didn't like waking up the next morning like not knowing what the hell I did. Like that was just like, what? And there was a few times where I would just get very emotional when I was drunk, and I'm like, why are these things, and like my fiance would tell me, and he's like, well, yeah, you got really drunk, you started crying, and like you were talking about this and that. And I was just like, I didn't even realize these things were like still affecting me as an adult, because again, on a day-to-day basis, I wasn't thinking about these things and I wasn't like aware of these things, but I guess like it would come out when I was drunk. And I was just like, okay, well, I don't really like that. One, didn't really like the next day, like after being drunk, like finding all these things out, I was like embarrassed, because I'm like, what the heck, like why, like no one wants to deal with a crying drunk, so yeah, like it was just like, okay, these are things I need to work on and things like I need to fix. So I started looking for things I could do to help myself. I haven't necessarily I haven't gone to therapy yet. I have looked into therapy and stuff like that, but I think I'm not ready for that step yet. But again, I just think our mental health is so important, and going into like kind of what I've been going through this past month is, one, not being able to go to the gym. The gym helps me a lot mentally. It's more than just like the physical part of working out. It's a lot more of just like the mental part. Like it's literally the time that I am able to just turn off my brain and not think about anything else but myself, my workout. Like I'm not thinking about anything else when I'm in the gym. I'm literally in the gym to work out, and that's it. So yeah, I just started looking at ways like, how can I like learn and help myself, or what can I do? Because I don't want to carry these things like into my marriage. My fiance shouldn't have to deal with these things, and not that he's like, you need to fit, like, no, like he's very supportive and very understanding and is trying to help me. But we grew up very differently. So sometimes it's hard for him to like understand what I'm feeling, because he can only understand so much, because it's not something that he's experienced or has gone through. So yeah, I just started like doing some research, looking for books and stuff like that. So I want to get into some books that I have recently purchased. I'm going to talk about 2 books specifically, because these are the 2 books that I'm reading currently, and I feel like are books that a lot of people can benefit from, regardless of like what we've been through in our childhood, because we've all gone through things, in our childhood. Nobody's childhood is perfect. So I feel like this one book in particular kind of talks about childhood trauma, and honestly just understanding how much what you go through as a child affects you for the rest of your life, basically. So yeah, I'm going to share with you guys these 2 books. Okay, also side note. So obviously I'm going to be like talking a little bit about like what has helped me and stuff like that, but I'm not a professional. So if you are really, really going through something, I urge you to seek help from a professional. I know that it's not the most comfortable thing to do, but if you truly, truly need help, I want you to get the help that you need for yourself, okay? For nobody else, but for yourself. So again, I'm just sharing my advice, my opinion, and I'm not a professional. I got my degree in kinesiology, not in psychology or any of that. But again, I just want to use my platform to spread awareness, to help, to motivate, to inspire in any way that I can. Okay, so this is why I am sharing this information. Okay, so I'm gonna use my knees to hold my mic because crap is over here. So the one book that I would probably like really recommend, if you've gone through anything in your life, is What Happened to You. And these are conversations on trauma, resilience, and healing. And I'm not fully done with this book, but I feel like I've taken a lot already from this book. So this book is by Bruce D. Perry, who is an MD and has a PhD, and Oprah Winfrey. So I'll kind of just read the back to you guys. So it's this is from Oprah. My conversations with Dr. Bruce Perry and the thousands of people who were brave enough to share their stories with me on the Oprah Winfrey Show have taught me that the effects of my treatment by those who were supposed to care for me weren't strictly emotional. There was also a biological response. Through my work with Dr. Perry, my eyes have been opened to the fact that although I experienced abuse and trauma as a child, my brain found ways to adapt. This is where hope lives for all of us, in the unique adaptability of our miraculous brains. As Dr. Perry explains in this book, understanding how the brain reacts to stress or early trauma helps clarify how what has happened to us in the past shapes who we are, how we behave, and why we do things we do. Through this lens, we can build a renewed sense of personal self-worth and ultimately recalibrate our responses to circumstances, situations, and relationships. It is, in other words, the key to reshaping our very lives. So I bought this book on Amazon. And honestly, what I'm going to do after I read this book is pass it over to a loved one. Because I feel like, again, anybody can really benefit from this book, whether or not like you've personally experienced stuff in like your childhood trauma. Again, we've all experienced something, right? But say there really wasn't anything that you feel like as a kid has affected you in your adulthood. If you are planning on having kids, or you work with kids, or anything having to do with kids, I feel like you should read this book. Again, I think anybody can really benefit from reading this book. But it's basically understanding like that what happened to me doesn't define me. And I've always said that, because I feel like I'm choosing my words very carefully. But I just feel like the things that I have experienced in my life, one thing I have always told myself is that just because I went through these things in my life does not mean I'm going to let it affect me. I could go down two paths. I can either let it affect me and ruin my life, or I can learn from it and grow as a person and choose a better path and use what I have been through as a learning lesson, as an experience that I can grow from. And so I think that's just how I take things that happen to me in general. I'm like, okay, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. What is the lesson? What is the reason that this is happening, and how can I grow from it? I feel like I've been really thinking about that a lot lately, because there's been a lot of changes in my life, and some changes that I haven't really openly talked about. But I just feel like as I'm getting older and, stepping into a new chapter in my life, and, in a couple of years we'll be becoming a mother, I don't want to carry these things on into my marriage and as a mom, so I've just been really trying to like work on these things. So with this book in particular, it talks a lot about how things that we experience as our child really shapes us into the human, like the adults that we become, and how, like, more learning so about how the brain kind of works, and how there's this one quote. I need to find this quote because I don't want to like say it wrong. But let's see. Let me see. Okay, so I'll kind of just read this and like why I'm bringing this up and why I think that this book could benefit everybody. It says, this is a note from the authors. This book is for anyone with a mother, father, partner, or child who may have experienced trauma. And if you've ever had labels like people pleaser, self-sabotager, disruptive, argumentative, checked out, can't hold a job, or bad at relationships used to describe you or your loved ones, this book is for you. Or if you simply want to better understand yourself and others, this book is for you too. So again, why I think this book is beneficial for everybody. I also like want my fiance to read that because I feel like it would kind of help him also like just understand like where I'm coming from about certain things. But I just think it'll make us better individuals overall, like the way that you what's the word I'm looking for? Not interact, that's the word. The way that we interact with other people, we have to look at things a little differently. Like, you don't know what's going on in their life, what they've been through in their life, or what they're currently going through in their life. Like, you don't know the type of day that they had. So I just think for me, it just makes me look at people completely different in the way that I interact with them. And I always try to be nice and positive. Of course, if you're mean to me, I honestly probably will just like turn away and not even bother with you. I'm not going to stoop down to that level, but so far that book has helped me think about things a lot differently, and I've been able to connect the dots a lot better, right? This second book I want to talk about, one of my best friends actually gave this book to me. So this is called Strong, and it's Devotions to Live a Powerful and Passionate Life. So this is, I'll read the back. So it says, strong is not wrong. God made you. So this is more of a like religious book. I was looking for the word. More of a religious book. So it says, God made you to be strong in every area of your life. However, wrong is not strong. In today's culture, it's imperative not only that we are strong women God has called us to be, but that we are strong in His truth of His word, uncompromising in our pursuit of righteousness. Strength is a calling and a command, but where we draw our strength from is just as important as how we display it. Our culture would tell us that strength comes from within, but the truth is strength comes from God. In strong New York Times bestselling author Lisa, don't want to say her name wrong, but Lisa Bever, I think it's Bever. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Provides a fresh perspective on what it means to be strong in a world that often has it all wrong. In 90 Devotion, Lisa covers topics such as how to be both powerful and gentle, relational healing, contentment, redeeming regret, the strength of rest, and more. She will inspire you to rise up in strength, grow deeper in your faith, and experience the joy of living in harmony with God, others, and yourself. So I didn't really grow up really religious. I remember we would go to church for a while, for like a couple of years. We would go to church for like Easter, but I didn't really grow up going to church. I just don't think that was a priority in my parents' lives. They were dealing with a bunch of other stuff. But I do remember a point in time where like I was older and my mom had finally separated from my dad. Like, we started going to church. It was just us three. So it was my mom and my sister, and we started going to church. Again, it was just never something that we stuck to. And even now, like, I don't go to church, but I have been wanting to kind of just get closer to God. And so yeah, so she gave me this book, which I really enjoy this book. It's an easy read because it's literally only 2 pages, and it's kind of like something that I will read before I go to bed. So I will kind of show you an example. So for example, like number 3 is Not Alone. So this is like literally just, that's it. And every page is like talks about something different. So I feel like it's a very easy read, and I'm enjoying reading that. I've been trying to read at least 1 page a night. I do miss some nights. So the nights I miss, I try to make up for it and read like multiple pages. And then obviously this other book, this has just kind of been my, when I need to take a break, I will sit here and read this and just kind of be with myself, and really just have been trying to step away from being so consumed by social media, because I feel like social media has a big impact on our like mental health. And being in social media the way that I am, and kind of, you know, social media is a job for me, I find myself comparing myself and not giving myself enough credit for the things that I've accomplished in my life. So yeah, I've just kind of been trying to really heal my inner child, I guess you can say. I think it's very important that we take care of our mental health. I think it's very important to have these hard conversations. They're hard, but they will help you. And so I just hope that from whatever I've talked about today, I will kind of come back and like give my update after reading this book, and kind of like just my takeaways and stuff like that. But I just kind of wanted to come on here and share that with you guys, that if you are kind of in a similar boat and you are really just trying to heal yourself, like you are in your self-healing era, I would recommend, you know, picking up a book. Find a book that interests you. Find a book that interests you about, you know, like your mental health, or in specific something that like you've gone through in your life. I will one day be able to openly talk about things that I've been through, but it's kind of something that's still very hard to talk about. But you are not alone. I hope that you know that you're not alone, and I hope that I can create a safe space for you to, you know, if you ever need somebody to talk to, if you ever just need somebody to listen, or if you do need advice, just know that I am here for you. And I know that it's sometimes hard to like open up about things, but sometimes it's a little easier to open up about a stranger, and I am not here to judge you, and I will do my best to give you the best advice. Again, I'm not a professional, but I just want to create a safe space for everybody, because I feel like I didn't have a safe space growing up, and so I want to be a safe space for you. I want to create a safe space for you. And I just feel like social media can be very ugly, and that's not what I want my platforms to be. I want my platforms to be very judge-free. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys. So I hope that whatever you are going through, I hope that you know things will get better. I hope that you continue to stay strong and to do your best. And if there are days that you just don't have the energy to do anything, like that's okay. Sometimes we do need to take a mental health day, you know, and I know that not everybody is fortunate enough to do so, to where, you know, they're really struggling and just literally need a break, but they have other priorities, you know, like a demanding job, or they have kids, you know, families, husbands, stuff like that. But I really just hope that you take care of yourself. Do something for yourself. We only have one life, you know. Make the most of it. Enjoy it to the fullest. Hold on, give me 1 second. My watch keeps vibrating. So yeah, I hope that you get through whatever you're going through. Know that things do get better, and I know that right now it may not seem that way, but I promise you things get better. And like I always say in my morning talks on my Instagram, because that's kind of where this originated from. Like I made a podcast kind of about this, but just to kind of throw it in there because I know I haven't had a new episode in a while. But yeah, Morning Talks podcast came from Morning Talks on my Instagram, where I would literally just go on my phone in the mornings and just kind of vent to you guys, talk to you guys, let you guys know what I was doing that day, whatever was on my mind, I would just kind of talk to you guys about. So that's kind of like why I was like, you know what, we need to bring this in long version because my stories do not need to be so freaking long. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to do with this podcast. I will obviously be talking about multiple different things. I don't want this to just be I'm not going to say like, how do I say this? We will have fun episodes. I promise. Not every episode will be deep and emotional like this one. Even though I feel like I didn't dive as deep as like I initially thought I wanted to, but again, I'm just going at my own pace. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope that you learned something or you were able to take something away from this, or if this motivated or inspired you to, work on yourself and really heal your inner child and kind of just understand how the things that you've been through in your life, whether it was as a child, a teen, or as an adult, like how that affects you long term. And yeah, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day or night or whenever you're listening to this. And I hope that you do something for yourself today. Take care of yourself. I hope you move your body. Know that that is very important. And honestly, moving your body helps your mental health a lot. Whatever that may be, whatever activity that you enjoy, do that. Just move your body. I promise it helps. And I will see you guys in the next podcast.